Hey everyone, welcome. When it comes to investing, a lot of us are just guessing. Today, we're going to talk about a game changing idea that takes all that guesswork and turns it into a real science. So, let me ask you something straight up. Is your portfolio really built on a solid strategy, or is it kind of just guesswork? Be honest with yourself. It's a tough question, I know, but the answer could literally change your financial future. All right, so to really get why this matters so much, let's jump right into our first section. Investing's common mistakes. And trust me, these are traps that even the smartest people out there fall into all the time. Okay, take a look at this list. Does any of it ring a bell? Chasing that stock that did great last year? That's a classic. It's called recency bias. Or how about putting almost all your money in your own country's market? That's home bias. And oh, this next one is a biggie. Correlation blindness. That's when you think you're diversified, but then a market downturn hits and surprise, everything crashes at the same time. This is what we mean by guesswork, and it can seriously, quietly eat away at your wealth. But what if I told you there's a way to avoid all of this? A way that's actually been mathematically proven? Well, there is. And that brings us to our next section, and an idea so powerful, so revolutionary, it won a Nobel Prize. They even call it finance's only free lunch. So what is this free lunch? Well, it comes from the brilliant mind of an economist named Harry Markowitz. He's the one who proved with cold, hard math that if you combine different assets in a smart way, you can actually lower your portfolio's overall risk without giving up any of your expected return. Just let that sink in for a second. Less risk for the same potential reward. That is the free lunch right there. And that single brilliant insight is the key. It's what lets us finally move away from just guessing and into the world of science. So the big question is, how do we take this amazing theory and turn it into something practical, something we can actually use? The answer is a framework called portfolio optimization. And here's the most important part. This isn't just some fuzzy, abstract idea. Nope, it's a very specific mathematical process. It helps you build the absolute best portfolio possible, one that squeezes out the highest expected return for whatever level of risk you're personally comfortable with. This is the exact science the big guys use to manage trillions. And this chart just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got intuitive investing. That's all about chasing winners, ignoring how your investments are connected, and making decisions based on emotion. On the other side, you have optimized investing. It's the complete opposite. It's about mathematical precision, understanding those hidden connections, and sticking to a disciplined, rules-based plan. It's not just a small change, it's a total upgrade in your thinking. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? Like with real money? Great question, and that's exactly what our next section is all about. Let's look at the real-world impact of optimization. So let's set the scene with a super simple real-world case study. Imagine someone invests 50 lakh rupees, and they're going to let it grow for 20 years. That's a pretty common goal for a lot of us, right? All right, now check out these numbers. This is where it gets really interesting. On the left, you see the results of that intuitive or guesswork portfolio. On the right, the optimized one. Get this, the optimized portfolio delivered a higher return with less risk. And the final outcome? It's not even close. 4.2 crore versus 5.8 crore. Let's dig into how that's even possible. First things first, the optimized portfolio was 2.6% less volatile. Now, what does that actually mean? It means a much smoother ride. Fewer of those terrifying stomach-churning drops that make you want to sell everything. That alone is huge because it helps you stay in the game. But that's not even the best part. Because here's that free lunch we were talking about. This is it, in action. You didn't just take on less risk, you actually made more money, an extra 1.6% every single year. And that little bit extra just compounds and compounds and compounds. So what happens when you combine that lower risk with a higher return over 20 years? You get this, an extra 1.6 crore rupees. Just, wow, it's not a rounding error. That is a life-changing amount of money. And it didn't come from taking more risk. It came from using a smarter scientific process. Okay, so by now you're probably asking, how can I actually do this? And that's the perfect lead into our final section, your portfolio's blueprint. Because this isn't just some high-level theory for big banks. It's a practical, step-by-step guide that anyone can use to build a better financial future. Look, it really boils down to 4 simple steps. First, you gotta know your goal. What are you trying to achieve? Second, you map out your assets. You really need to understand what you own and how it all works together. Third, you use the math to figure out the perfect mix, your ideal blueprint. And fourth, and this one is so important, you have to stick to the plan. You have to maintain that blueprint by rebalancing your portfolio regularly. No exceptions. So, if there's one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. Using mathematical precision to make small, smart improvements to your portfolio isn't just about small gains. Those gains compound on each other, and over time, they grow exponentially. It's an incredibly powerful force. And that leaves us with one final big question for you to think about. After seeing just how massive a difference a scientific approach can make, you really have to ask yourself, what is the true potential that's still locked up inside your portfolio?